Good day and good evening, and welcome to Dailies Hangout stream with me, Caetsu Chaiji, but you just call me Kai. And no twist. On this stream, we're basically doing dailies from, well, not this, or this. We're going down the list. We're usually skipping main scenario and guild test, and also men's on front line, but we're basically doing the roulettes and just having a good old time doing roulettes. And that of course gives a very open environment to ask questions if there's something you're curious about, whether it's something you'd like to learn in the game, something you don't understand how it works, so on and so forth. I don't think there's going to be a twist. Well, let's see, maybe we find something hilarious to do. Can the twist be that we do guild test? Are you sure you want this? Also, welcome back into the Cult of the Pink, Zeros. And thank you for celebrating 1 month of membership of the Cult of the Pink, Lexi. Speaking of which... Hey Lexi, hey Fatman, hey Caetsu, hey Zav, hey Ross, hey Matthew, hey Zeros, hey Ilana, hey Robin, hey Shorakai, hey Aradel, hey Ham, hey Cat Damon, hey Derby, and hey Gaza Dragoon. Hope you're all doing very well. Just make sure not to twist your ankles. Hey Leyland, hope you're doing well as well. So yeah, the plan is, as we've done many a time, to just go through the roulettes. I feel like this was a stream that was makes sense to do. This is something we've done for months on the channel, and I don't think we'll do specifically this for a little bit when we get to Dawn Trail. So, you know, I feel like this is a good opportunity to do this. We barely have time to do it next week. And speaking of next week, extremely important tip for you all if you're planning to play Dawn Trail in the early access period, which means Friday next week. If you don't think you'll actually log in before Tuesday the week after, where the official release happens, then this doesn't apply to you. I have a whole guide from like a few months ago on what you can prepare for Dawn Trail. But this particular tip, just this once, is the early access only Friday? No, it starts Friday and then it continues until the official release. So basically, as I normally call it, and that might be a bit rude, but it's not actually early access. It's more like the actual release is Friday, but what we'll write on like officially is Tuesday. And if you like, basically, I've had people buy Dawn Trail on the Friday and still get the early access. So yeah, it's just a weird way to sell it. It's just a weird way to put it, because it's not like early access necessarily. But anyway, that's a sidetrack. What I actually want to talk about is Wondrous Tales. Make sure... Oh, by the way, it's really funny. It's all poetics. Oops, all poetics. So that actually means I have 2 tips for you. Double tip. First tip, make sure to pick up your Wondrous Tales this week, but do not hand it in this week. Do not hand it in. Hold it until Dawn Trail. The reason for this is that this XP becomes half a level when you hand it in as a job that can level up. As any job that can level up, it becomes half a level, so you can use this to get half a level on Viper or Pictomancer like that. Or you can also use it on a different job to get half level like that. Most people use it to try and push the new jobs to like level 81 so that they can queue for a better dungeon. And yeah, I do realize, Matthew, I just didn't think that they do it at this point. But yeah, it makes sense. So what you can do is you can fill in all the stickers here. You can do that, but don't give Chloe your book. hold it until Friday next week, until like when you can level up. Actually, I have 3 tips. The second tip is try to make sure that you still have 9-second chances when you're done filling in the stickers, because on Friday next week, you can hand in this Wondrous Tales, get another one, fill that one in, and if you have 9-second chances, maybe like Ultima Weapon Extreme is on it, and you can just smash that out in 8 seconds or less 9 times, and you're done in 2 minutes. But if you don't have 9-second chances, it gets a lot more complicated. So, important, try to fill in this book without spending your second chances, and if you do, make sure to, fill them up again. Make sure you fill them up again. The third tip is before you hand in this book, before you hand it in, remember that once Dawntrail releases, let me just go to Ratsathan to like specify this. One of these vendors, one of them will no longer sell this, but instead all of the prices will go up by like 100-ish, maybe like change a little bit, but they'll be in Poetics, and it will be augmented versions, so 660 versions. So you can buy some like actually really good gear, like best you can get in Endwalker levels for Poetics. So basically, when you log in for Dawntrail, you get your character over here, spend some Poetics, go to Idleshare, hand in your tome, or your journal, so you can get even more Poetics, come back, buy more stuff, and then, do your second book, and then perhaps come back and buy some more stuff. This doesn't apply if you already have all of the best gear, but if you don't, and I'm sure a lot of you don't, this could help. The particular things that you might be interested in is 660 gear for whatever job you plan to do the MSQ with. Maybe for your Viper or your Pectopanzer. You could also buy gear in Crystarium to like start your Viper or Pictomancer better. There's also another thing to consider is that once Dawntrail comes out, the blue pouch vendors in all of the main cities in previous expansions? There'll probably be one in Old Sharlayan, selling all the things that I just mentioned. So that's tip number 3. Tip number 4 is, as Aradel says, next week, the weekly reset happens on Tuesday as normal, but you have Tuesday and only Tuesday to do anything you want to prepare for Dawntrail, because the servers are down Wednesday and Thursday, and the next time they open, it's Dawntrail time, and you're late. And then you might be wondering, and the reason I'm saying all this now is because if I say it next week, you might be like, it's a little late, man. What you can do, if you really, really want to give it 1,000,000%, is get this one to be 2 out of 3, get this one to be 4 out of 5, you could even get this one to be 2 out of 3. If you really want to go extra, you could get this one to get 9 out of 10 instead. Get this one to 4 out of 5. And then you do your leveling roulette. This one pops, and make sure you comment someone and this one pops. Then you can do a guild test, and then this one pops, and you didn't manage to comment someone, you can do this one. Of course, if no one's queuing for guild test, that could be a problem, but there probably are. And if you're wondering how you make that happen where this one says 2 and this one says 4, you need to do, if you do expert and level 90 roulette, then you're done here. Then you just specifically queue for something like Sastasha twice. Yeah, if you make sure to log out in a sanctuary, you will have more rested XP. Speaking of which, this is actually another tip that at the latest you'd need to take care of on Friday. If you have any jobs or classes that are not max level and you want to have your rested XP bar fully capped to level Viper or Pictomancer on release, then you have to make sure, like if you have no rested XP, you have to stop gaining XP on anything from Friday this week, because it takes a week, approximately a week supposedly, to fully max out the rested XP bar. And one of the easiest ways to just poof all of your rested XP up in smoke is leveling a crafter or a gatherer, because they level primarily by things that spend rested XP, such as crafting things or gathering things. Combat jobs often are much slower to spend their rested XP, because they only spend rested XP when they gain XP from killing things. Which means, you do a dungeon, the XP you get from killing a boss is boosted and so spends rested XP. Clearing the dungeon does not spend the rested XP and is not boosted. Also, if you're leveling any job that is below... Wait, where do I have this? Where did I put it? There it is. If you're leveling a job that is level 90 or below, make sure to wear this. It should still work at level 90. So make sure to wear this until you reach level 91. I think that's most everything. Matthew says 5 dungeons counts unsynced. Even better. Just, like, run whatever dungeon you can run the fastest 2 times unsynced. On Tuesday. Night Gleaming. Night Angel. And Fila. Hope you're all doing well. And Steve. You could also get XP boosting manuals from the squadrons. I think I mentioned that in my guide, but I will not do that myself. I have from years of World of Warcraft, I've developed an allergy to command tables. If you've played World of Warcraft, you might understand what I mean by that. If you don't, well, you might be shocked how they came up with the idea of a command table with squadrons. Hey Oscar, we are on Chaos, yes. That's my home DC. Hey Perrin, hope you're doing well. Yeah, I think that's everything. You can also do that, Leah. If you just make the FC ones, they also work. Keynote, they don't stack. And if anyone tells you otherwise, they have not tested it. Because I have evidence from people that tested it. They don't stack. Squadrons are more useful than command tables in WoW. Sometimes. Part of the reason for the massive gold inflation that had plagued retail WoW for years was the gold that came from Warlords of Draenor command tables. So, sometimes. Anyway, I think that's all of the... Just a moment. Hey Simplex, hope you're doing well. I think that's everything. Make sure you don't hand in your Wondrous Tales this week, unless you don't plan to play until the official release Tuesday, 2 weeks from now. make sure to fill in your Wondrous Tales. Try to do it with minimum second chances. If you really want to give it extra, on Tuesday next week, do anything you want to prepare for Dawn Trail on the Tuesday, because Wednesday and Thursday games not available. Like, servers down. You have to book something else to do Wednesday and Thursday. The game is not available. It's not a maybe, it's a it is not available. It's not maybe they'll open the servers early. No chance. You'll have to play a different game. Or go for a walk. There's a patch note reading, yes, you could do that. But yeah, there's no Final Fantasy XIV for 2 days. So, like, build up your appetite, because you're going to be playing a lot, probably. But yeah, the key thing, probably the most effective thing you can do if you want to level Viper or Pictomancer really fast, is get this one to 2, this one to 4, and this one to 4. If you've done that, then you're ready. You pick up Viper or Pictomancer, you hand in your Wondrous Tales, grab another Wondrous Tales, fill that one in, hand that one in, and then one of your jobs should be level 81. If you want to get both to level 81, you then take the second one and do leveling roulette. And hopefully all of these bonuses combined will make it, bam, level 81. There's also a Fate one, that's true. You could also do that one. Probably get the 9 out of 10 if you really, really want a big boost, but you could also go 4 out of 10 and, you know, do 6 Fates. Another thing that you don't have to prepare is on the Friday, you can pick up 3 tribe quests from the Agazadara. Mainly because they give like a quarter of a level, but you need to be level 81 for that. And yeah, that's also true, Matthew. See, the thing is, if you don't care about Viper or Pictomancer, you can level a different job to level 80 to 91 with all of these tricks. If you want to level your... Like, the thing I would not recommend is spending all of these XP gathering strategies to level the one you plan to do the main quest with. Because if you just do the main quest and all of the dungeons of the main quest and all that with your main job, it should reach level 100, level 100, no problem. It does not need any more help than that. Maybe a little bit, but not really. You'll probably be fine. So don't waste it on that. And of course, as Steve says, we have plenty of time. So all of these tips are only for those that are like... for all of those that want to rush, you can. You don't have to. Infinite Potato says, wouldn't you want to get 3 elephant quests before maintenance on some level 90 job too? You can. You can. Don't have to. Thank you so much, William. I really appreciate it. And hey, Alisven. Hope you're doing well. And Hieronymus. And that's also true. If you make sure to level your main up ahead, then you can, you know, get more value out of the armory bonus. So you'd probably not want, like, aside from this big XP boost on a secondary job right out the gate, aside from that, you probably don't want 2 jobs like working next to each other like this, because it just means that you don't get any armory bonus on them. Or you get half the armory bonus potentially. Like, it's better to just like finish one and then go ahead. That said, before we actually start on the roulettes, I just wanted to share that well, if it'll load, just a moment. If it will load, I'll have something to share. My friend Natsu, that you may have seen in some streams, decided to draw this wonderful art of my character. just randomly. Isn't that amazing? Amazing. Is that good? Then hola. It's very nice. I'll probably put it in the community Discord after the stream. It's very nice. And with a copy, yes. Right. Let me just see here. And that's true, H. Colin. The reason why we usually recommend using Wondrous Tales to push the new jobs one level is because if you do that, so the new jobs will start at level 80, right? The new jobs start at level 80. If you're level 80, this is the best dungeon. The best one is this one, right? But if you're level 81, this is the best dungeon, and it should give substantially more XP. Yes, you can't guarantee it. If you queue for leveling roulette alone, you could get anything. If you have a pre-made, maybe you're lucky, and you use this limited option, if you're level 80, you could get, I believe this is like the options you could get, but if you're level 81, it changes to this. Which is like both it removes Don Meg from the pool, I'm pretty sure. Yes. But it also adds Tal of Zod. The difference between those two is massive. So like it's basically a combination of playing the odds and also just you could do it at level 80 or 81. Hey Bob, hope you're doing well. And hey Zach. Right. I think that's everything I have if I'm actually doing roulettes. Imagine. Let's do a stream where we actually do dailies. 20 minutes in. Not done anything yet. If you'd like to join me for expert roulette, come on over to me. Let me just get my notes out. Right. We have a lot of people here. We might be able to make a group too. Hey Darth, hope you're doing well. And Philippe. And Zerka. 30 minutes is nothing. Let's wait for 60. Down says it's also just fun to be +1 level without having played the job much yet. Oh, absolutely. Some people think it's so fun that they actually level the job entirely without learning them. Some even go as far as leveling a job fully without playing them. Philippe says Ninja stream saying goodbye to Hooton. No, I'm not necessarily playing Ninja. The reason I was Ninja was because I needed to speedrun over to the vendors in Ratsathan. My group says whatever you prefer. Well, then I'll play Black Mage. If Pictomancer and Viper started at level 90, there would be a higher chance that I would start with, like, do the MSQ with one of those. I just don't want to, like, power level 10 levels first. By not being one of those that do that, I also avoid the potential problem of, you know, infinite queue time. Like, I remove one person from the pool, at least. Much easier when you don't have high latency, isn't it? That's true, Baron. You would be able to power level with trusts, but it's not optimal. You'd rather do it with real players if you can. It's a lot faster. There's also a lot of people that are banking on just doing it with Boja up to level 90. Oh yeah, this is going to be one of, if not the last time we have to do. We're very soon, everyone. It's almost no more this in your expert roulettes. We're running out of this. I don't feel super comfortable about this position. I think I could have chosen a better spot. Whoa. Mike Wazowski over there going, yes, that is a bad spot. Didn't you know? Oh yeah, we'll get back to 3 dungeons in expert roulette. Right, we'll have level 90 roulette with 3 dungeons. Yeah, exactly, Alisven. That is a classic problem by having Scholar. Like, Scholar is basically, for a lot of players, what happens when you level a job almost entirely through, like, free XP sources. Like, all sorts of free XP sources. I'll stand here. Greeted a little bit too hard on the Fire Force there. Hey, Zynite. Hope you're doing well. Unfortunately on that, Leah, at least Summoner's reasonably simple. So you can probably figure it out with a little bit of time. But it's still not super fun. Like, actually, Summoner's probably even worse to be a job that you leveled without playing it. Because what's going to happen is, if you don't know how to play it because you never played it, a lot of people will be like, but Summoner's so simple, how can you not know how to play it? Does that sound familiar, everyone? Oh, whoops, I didn't need to shoutcast there. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Will my team move for me? That is the old. That's the true Black Mage dance. Will my group move for me? It's not even a dance. It's like a trust fall. It's like a really weird trust fall. Oh, whoops. But you know, actually, Leah, it's going to be surprisingly effective.
The city is already overrun.
Because the job doesn't get that much. Like, I would actually say level 30 Summoner is probably harder to play than level 60 Summoner. Which might sound completely insane, but it kind of is. Level 30 Summoner has to use Swift... Are you kidding me? Right in my ley lines? Right in my ley lines, really. For king and country. I mean, the thing is, Summoner gets a huge amount of its weirdness from low level. Like honestly, if you actually try to learn how to play Summoner optimally at level 30, you'll discover that the job makes no sense. Like actually knows. Like I'm not making that up. Most of your DPS gains revolve around auto attacking.
I cannot, will not.
And while that's a slight exaggeration, it's not far from the truth. I've placed down my ley lines.
Dangerous. Have care, Golbez.
I have a lot to do in very little time right now. No! Get back here! I'm pretty sure this was a safe spot. I'm pretty sure. Oh boy. Wait, was I in the stack? I took damage from that. Did I count as in the stack? Huh? What? How? It's a really big stack marker. Was it just raid-wide damage on top? Wham! Up. Uh-oh. Oh dear. Run! Ow! Uh-oh. Ow. I thought that was a safe spot. I should probably have planned that a little bit better. I actually looked at the spot I wanted to go to, and then the boss was like, yeah, that's also not a safe spot, buddy. That's the classic. All right, I'll go over there when I need to move, and then the boss just goes, and then I'll pass over that. That thing you called your safe spot? Yeah, that's where I'm going.
I think not.
Nasalization. Hope you're doing well. Mentor Black Mage, by the way. Yeah. I know what I'm doing. Hey, you don't learn what you can get away with without, you know, taking some chances. You gotta break a few eggs, right? Oh, wait. Oh, man. Guys, we're killing the bosses too fast. My triple flare wasn't ready. We're winning too fast.
Will not fall here. I dare say we'll be faster if we split up.
I dare say we'll be faster if we split up. Glad to hear that, Tasty. Thank you so much. Having fun casting fire too? Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's a good spell. It looks cool. Sure hope they don't nerf it into the ground. Hey, Minmay. Hope you're doing well.
So be it. I will fight you with all my strength.
Old magic.
Ether to fortify my blade.
Uh-oh. I think he's going to hit this spot I'm standing on next time.
It matters not.
Oh, right. That's also a mechanic. Don't think I can stand here. Nope, just barely not. It's fine. I didn't want my ley lines anyway. Totally fine. Can I make it? Yeah, yes. Oh man, perfect. And those explosions make a lot better sense when you're not lagging. It's absolutely crazy on Small Kai last week.
Let's see how you fare now.
They just like land in sets. Hey, Bad Angel. Hope you're doing well. Ether to fortify my blade. Not to be confused with ether to do something else. Like, such as ether to eat when you're hungry.
Not be bested. Not this day.
Wait a minute, I forgot to reapply my thunder. Wait a minute, my ley lines are ready again. My ley lines are ready. I haven't even placed them. It's even weirder.
It's over, my friend.
It's over, my friend. I put them here. My tactical ley lines. Oh, there's a limit break. What if you were doing this fight and Durante just decided to do Gale Spheres? That would be amazing. Like, just randomly, if there's a boss that, like, exists in multiple duties, sometimes they'll just pull out something. Just, surprise! I can do this too! Like, he just goes, ether to fortify my blade. Sits down and then just does a frontal cleave Golbez style. And then when you think it's over, he turns around and cleaves that side as well. You're just like, oh. Also, hey, Shiro. Hope you're doing well. And thank you, Bad Angel. I'm really glad to hear that. Very nice. Did we actually get a second group? Are they already done? Are they not done? Hey, Tristan. Happy birthday. Oh, there they are. Imagine how fun a dungeon boss would be that actually did its mechanics in a random order. Well, there's a... I mean, I guess Seed of Sacrifice kind of have something? Seed of Sacrifice has something, it's just that... The thing is, while the bosses can do something random, we've already gotten so good at spreadsheeting things that, for example, Durante, technically, he does random things, because when he does the "you've weathered this before," the angle of the orbs is random. It's just that we've figured out every single combination like that and gone, oh, well, we already know the answer. Which means that for as far as we're concerned, it's just, well, either you step left or right. or forward or backward, or stand in the middle. Like, we've gotten really good at figuring out mechanics, so if they made them random, it wouldn't change that much. Oh, thank you so much for the 5 gifted memberships, Tristan. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Very generous. Very backwards on your birthday. Thank you. It's extra weird, Alisven, because I'm like 99% certain that the center position being the safe spot for the 5 orbs appearing, I'm 99% certain that can only happen the second time he summons 5 orbs. Which means that most of the people that say that he can't put it in the center is because they always, like, finish the boss before he does it again. Which is reasonably expected because it takes an enormously long time for him to get around to the second one, right? It takes really long time, so it's usually like a really slow group. Well, that's not fair. There's actually a lot of groups where you get the second one, and that's not necessarily because anyone's bad. I guess it's more like if you don't have like a pumper DPS in the group, then it can happen. And when I mean pumper, I of course mean like, you know, one of those that might actually have a DPS meter and be like tryharding as hard as they can. And the thing is, if you had random boss mechanic orders, that would also require that the boss is reasonable enough that you can react to it, right? That's why in Seed of Sacrifice, he telegraphs, I'm going to do this set of mechanics now. Like, it is random which section he does at what time, but he does basically give you like 15 seconds ago, alright, are you ready for this set? And that makes sense because, like, the mechanics are rather specific. Most of them, like, in harder content, are things where you... not as much. You can just, like, figure it out and do it on the fly. I'll say Coco. Hope you're doing well. Actually, you were here early as well, I'm pretty sure. Zav says it's random and it's always the opposite next time. That's true. That's the unfortunate reality when there's 2 options. Wouldn't it be weirder if he did the same one twice? That's also true, Shiro. The thing is, they make a fight in a very specific script so that it's a good fight. And I think part of the problem with making mechanics random, or making the order random rather, is that if they were random... By the way, while we're just sitting here, I just want to look at this a little bit more. While they make the mechanics fully predictable, it also means that they can make sure they can introduce the mechanic to you and then build on it. Where if they were random, there's a reasonable possibility that they would show the first mechanic 3 times before, like, you have a chance to see the combined version. What is this week's mini mark? AlphaScape 2. Yeah. Well, for the personal challenges, that can always be a nightmare. That's also true, Alisven. If a mechanic is really, really specific, then a random order could actually lead to a situation where one mechanic followed by the other is a guaranteed wipe. Right then, let me just do this. And then we say, if you'd like to join me for level 90 dungeons, come on over to me. I'm keeping tabs on it so that I don't so that someone doesn't end up getting missed every single time through the entire stream. But there's only so many spots. I wish I could bring everyone. Imagine your first time in Eden Ice and she starts channeling Axe Kick with 2 mirrors without ever having shown you that move before. Yeah, exactly. Although the way they could do it is that she won't do that until she's both done Axe Kick and the mirror mechanic at least once. But that is probably part of the reason why they make them not random, because if they didn't, it would just be like, well, at first the boss can do 3 things. And once they've done all 3 things, they can do 4 things. Which are combinations of them, and it very quickly means that even if they did randomize them, it'll just be like, it doesn't change that much. There's also the argument that technically the player characters don't have very much randomness to them either, so it makes sense that the boss would also just do the same rotation every time, a million times, right? Like, they don't have random procs. You don't have random procs, so why would they? Their mechanic is teleporting to another boss fight. That's true, Shiro. That's actually a good point. There's a reasonable amount of mechanics that at first glance look random, but they're not. Like, they're really not. There's also the part that, like, the orbs on the Durante fight, the first time you see it, it looks like, how would I actually be able to tell what I need to do here? Like, how would I know what the safe spot is in time? There's no chance. And then you figure it out that, oh, it just go to the loner orb. Or the middle. And once you know that, it's like, oh, it's rather easy, isn't it? And then we do that particular duty 300 times for a few months. And then you're like, it's all very simple. Why don't they make boss fights harder? Nice one, Gleaming. Good luck. By the way... Actually, never mind. I feel like that's a spoiler. You know, Cat is here. And other people that also would like to discover Dawn Trail when Dawn Trail comes. Nothing to do with what we were just talking about. I just thought of something. Light Rampant Ultimate. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's good, Micro. Well, there's, like, personally, I'm slightly concerned about, like, avoiding story spoilers, but it's not that big of a deal. Most of the stuff that will get revealed at this time is something that you'll probably figure out really soon. But I'm actually, like, I'm interested in, like, mechanical spoilers, so I looked into all that. But I know some people, especially people that watch these streams, do not want any spoilers, including mechanical spoilers. And that's perfectly fine. So I'll try and accommodate that to the best of my ability. Ow. I could have used Riddle of Earth for that. Oops. Maybe it didn't matter. We had a Lily there anyway. Oh. It's probably spread markers? Nope. And the boss just going, nope, exactly not that one, guy. You would be wrong. And Phantom Rush! Blah, 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 blah. Blam! Dragon Kick. Could have done 6-sided star there. Well, Grah, get his tacos. Oh yeah, that's a hard one, right? The trailer is like, oh, Grah gets tacos, and the final quest before you actually get to Dawn Trail is like, I can't go, guys. You have faced the face. I'll punch your face in the face. No! Yeah, I think it's really interesting to learn all the new stuff. I think it's specifically fun to sit and like theorize on how the things will go. But the thing is, I can take one step away from it all. Well, like something that a lot of people have trouble with right now is that they see that the potencies are kind of whack. And then they get worried, whereas I'm like, well, I mean, let's assume that the content works, right? Let's assume that things make sense. Let's see what happens after that. That's not always safe. It's good that some people point out the problems, but like that's part of the reason why I'm not as worried, I suppose. But it is a good idea that some people are actually pointing out some of the problems publicly, so that just in case it is something that is actually an oversight. Phantom Rush! Blap. Yeah, exactly, Perrin. We don't, like, all of the potencies, like, for all we know, they might have memed up all of the potencies intentionally. Like, they might have intentionally made many of the potencies wrong just to mess with us. We don't know until we see it. But sometimes we can't know for sure. Like, for example, Aflato's Misery was technically a DPS loss for an entire expansion and a patch. So if you had just assumed that, well, they'll probably fix it after the, like, on release, then you'd be very wrong. So sometimes it's good to, like, raise a flag and go, problems here, buddy. But we don't know until we see it. If you want some Doomium with media to potency, summon as the second strongest caster. That's I mean, that's pretty funny. I think the funniest part about that is that a problem? Is that a problem? Does it matter? Why is it a problem if it is a problem? Why can't Summoner have its day in the sun? Is it not okay for the easy caster to be strong? Is that a problem? Why is it not allowed to be strong? I think actually now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's actually reasonable to say that I feel like Black Mage is bogarting the being strongest a little bit here. Give Summoner a turn with the being strongest for a little bit. You know what's amazing? Just the other day, I actually ran Smileton as Monk. And somehow, my perfect balances and bursts and everything lined up perfectly, consistently, so that they just landed just right, so that I could like align them for every fight. And I could even finish all of the boss fights with Six-Sided Star without it feeling weird. Now we have a group with way stronger players, and now everything's just going nope. Nope. Boss is dying at awkward timings. Cooldown's not being fully ready on time. We're too strong, guys. We're too powerful. Yeah, I get it. The reason is that it's not super great if Summoner is the strongest, but also has a res, right? Like, I get that. My point was just more that it's probably not strongest by very much if it actually turns out it is strongest. Thank you, Zip. The floor clap. I think it's trying to use Art of War, guys. It's a very different kind of Art of War. I get what you're going for there, Mush. The key here is that we've discovered that players will play whatever's strongest, whether it's hard or easy. Some other players will play whatever they find most fun, whether it's hard or easy. So while the argument of the job that is harder to play should be the stronger one sounds reasonable, in reality no one cares. Like, actually no one cares. There will be players, like, the thing is, the players that do care mostly care that, oh man, now I have to play the harder job because it's the stronger one. They'll play it anyway. Right? Like, they'll play it anyway. So is it that big of a deal? And the rest of the players will just go, well, I like playing this job because it's entertaining. Excellent question, Sarahs. What is the point of those bots? Don't know. And yeah, I have made the exact same point a few times, Mush. It's just that I've kind of realized that just seeing how people react and talk about it, that in reality, don't really care. Like, most of them don't really care. So, oh, I should have used Limit Break. Oh well. That while it makes sense in a vacuum that the hardest job should be stronger, what it really causes, the effect it causes if the hardest, most difficult job is stronger, is more like the feeling that, oh, because I don't like to play the hardest job, I can never be the best. Like, that kind of feeling, where if jobs are balanced about what they can do, then that leads to a, like, more fair balance. It's just that sometimes it's harder to do something. It's also, by the way, a lot easier to argue the harder job to play should be strongest if you like to play hard jobs, or your main happens to be widely considered hard to play. Because then you're basically, like, arguing for your side, right? Like, it's more likely, as far as I know, for players that like hard jobs, that they will argue that harder jobs should have a strong, like, have stronger damage, or like be better or whatever. But it makes it weird, because if you both have to go, okay, what utility does this job provide? Also, is it hard to play when you're balancing them? Then you start to run into some trouble, I think. Microwell says, I don't know about that. People who aren't willing to put in the work to do the harder things shouldn't be rewarded with still being competitive. Well, see, the thing is that a lot of us are completely alienated from the possibility that an easier job to play is actually pretty hard to play. Consider the following. In vanilla World of Warcraft, a fire mage... Actually, a fire mage or a frost mage played like this. That was hard at some point. That was considered hard. Consider that that's, like, for some people, that's actually considered good gameplay. And then consider what you need to do as a summoner to do good damage. Like, even the easiest job in Final Fantasy XIV is hundreds of times more complicated than press Frostbolt. So, arguing that the hardest job deserves to do the most damage forgets the part that even the easiest job in Final Fantasy XIV is hard. Like, it's not trivial to play, it's just, relatively speaking, it's much easier. And there's also the argument that if you start saying, what's the hardest job? And you might have seen recently that I've been making videos on what the hardest job in each role is, and I'm making polls on the same subject. There are players that unironically find Summoner the hardest mage to play. That might not be many, but there's an actual possible reality that some of those are black mage mains. And some of them might mean it legit, like genuinely, beyond lol, it's boring. Some of them could be trolls, but if you make the argument that, well, if anyone said that Summoner's hardest, they have to be trolls, then that's very biased. Because I know some players actually find Summoner hard to play. But it's much more likely that a black mage would say, nah, that black mage is easy. Just do it right. And you wouldn't want a balance team who considers difficulty as a metric that decides what game gets the most DPS, where someone who has a direct say in the balance possibly happens to be a black mage main, because that guy might say, black mage is kind of easy. You shouldn't buff them too hard, they're really easy. You should give Summoner some power, like people are actually, they have to sleep through that, they deserve some compensation. Give them some damage buffs. Well, we can be a little closer as black mage, we're at least having fun, right? I'm of course making a little jab at the fact that if we actually balance jobs about being hard, then Yoshi P being a black mage main would probably be a problem for the black mage mains. Which is like, basically, if you start to balance jobs around difficulty, then you're balancing them on something that is actually subjective. The most interesting one is that black mage and monk are like universally jobs that are considered the hardest in the game, but they are stark, complete polar opposites in the way they're complicated. Where black mage is more about like a lot of planning, and it goes a bit slower. Where monk is, you know, Captain Mega Mash, right? And you just have to know what to press next. It goes so fast, you don't really have time to plan very much. You just need to know. And And see, me saying that might also be biased because I find Black Mage reasonably mid in difficulty and I find Monk really hard. So, just to finalize on that, on the one hand, really good argument that playing something that is harder should do more damage, because that motivates people to play the harder things, right? The problem with that is this makes sense in a game where everyone's playing the same thing. Like, if every mage was Black Mage, there's only Black Mage, then it makes sense that the harder rotation for Black Mage does more damage and the easier rotation does slightly less. This happened to be the case with Transpose Lines. Transpose Lines gave, I believe, when done perfectly, somewhere in the ballpark of 2 to 3% more DPS than just doing standard. That makes sense. The reason why it becomes a problem is if you say, well, the harder to play job does more damage, then it means that you're alienating the people that want to play a different job, right? That's not good. Because then it means, oh yeah, you can play any job you want. You can even switch between them with a click of a button. But you're playing Gunbreaker and Dark Knight and Astrologian and Scholar, right? And you're not playing Samurai or Reaper or something like that, right? You're playing Monk, maybe Ninja, and you're definitely playing Bard, not Machinist or Dancer, Bard. And Summoners and Red Mages, get out of here. Only Black Mages. Only Black Mages. Because they do way more damage. So why would you bring anything else? So again, as I said, it's very easy to make the argument that the jobs that are more difficult to play should do more damage. This works right up until the second where you realize that we have a player base, a gamer community on the internet that is so focused on optimization that they would genuinely block players from playing with them if they don't play the best job. So it's actually, it has been a problem when the community has been discovered that a job is a little weaker than the others by a too large margin. Then they start blocking paladins, machinists, red mages, summoners because they don't do enough damage. So it can be a problem. That's why it's a bad idea. Leah says, I think Dancer meta over Bard is meta over Bard, but that's not important. No, Leah. I'm not saying Bard does more damage than Bard, therefore. I'm saying I made a poll and Bard won by a monstrous margin as the hardest range DPS, which means that by the logic that harder jobs should do more damage, Bard is the strongest ranged physical job in that universe. Hence, Dancers are out. Bards are in. You just have to learn to play it well. Matthew says, isn't blocking Black Mage more common than blocking Summoner or Red Mage? I believe that's because a mediocre Black Mage is way worse than a mediocre Summoner or Red Mage. And see, the thing is, micro-well, people are banning specific jobs or excluding them for less than 5% when you get to the to a specific point. You're right that it depends on what kind of players we are talking about, but it's more the principle, because as I said again, difficulty is subjective. If you happen to find Bard really easy to play, then it's insanely convenient that Bard is considered hard by everyone else, because then Bard does more damage. Other people will find Bard really hard, or maybe you find Machinist really hard. So by balancing around something that is subjective, you reach a point where the players that don't find that hard just basically get free wins. That's why it can become a problem. It's exactly because it's kind of subjective with difficulty, and that's exactly something that you'll see time and time again, that Even with the healer one, I had people that went, I don't understand why what white mage basically got no votes. It's so hard for me. And things like that. And other people that went, how is it possible that Sage got less votes than Scholar? Because it's subjective. So if you balance something about something that is subjective, then you'll have a really, really weird system. And that's also true, Microwell. But here's the thing. When you're at the point where people are excluding classes for less than 5% DPS difference, you are in party fight on day 1 of a new Savage raid. But also, in more seriousness, you are also in a point where they will play whatever is strongest. Like, doesn't matter if the strongest job in the game straight up just was mash 1 for fireball. They'd play it if it was strongest. Doesn't matter if it's fun. Only matters if it's strong. So, like, balancing the game about, like, around them is pointless because they don't actually care. And also true, Zap, what happens is that this actually flows down through the meta is the highest skill players will use the best jobs, and if they're using those jobs for a reason that can be argued through logs, then the players that have no business caring about this will look at the log and go, well, technically Summoner does less damage than Black Mage, hence I don't want any Summoners in my groups. Even though it makes no sense. Because, first of all, the damage difference is so small, and second of all, your groups might not have good Black Mages. And so on. Anyway, if you would like to join me for 5, 6, 7, 8, come on over to me. I know, right, Tekna? If it we ball. But yeah, on the one hand, it makes sense to balance it so that the harder styles get more damage. On the other hand, if you do that, then you are making it so that a lot of players will feel like they're forced to play whatever's best. Like I have not recently, but I have multiple times throughout, like, the time of this channel, had people go to my videos and go, I'm starting on this game, I really like this job, but is it any good at max level? Like, will I be screwed in, like, hard content if I choose this job? And I have to tell them, no, that's no problem. All jobs are viable. Like, we have new starting players that would actually choose their job based on that 5% DPS difference, Microwell. Like, genuinely. We have new players that would choose based on that. Which is the reason why I'm saying it might not be a good idea. Gunbreaker then. That's good, Samuel. That's also what I recommend. That's actually what I like. The thing is, whenever I get those people that say, oh, can I play this? I don't... I don't know what to, like, can I play this? I just say, yeah, you can. You can play any job. Aris says, do you have a guide? I have lots of guides. I would need to know what job you're playing if you want a guide for a specific job. If you're talking about where to go when you jump to level 80, do the main quest. If you haven't changed your UI, there's probably a quest up here in the top left. You just click that, it'll tell you where to go. Hey Jack, hope you're doing well. Keep up the lake. Oh, Pharaoh serious, okay. Are you ready? I'll probably use Super Bolide at some point here, Graham, but I'll try to delay it until after you use Benediction, in case we need it. Okay, then, we didn't need it. Easy mode. Yeah, that's also true, Perrin. A lot of the new players that are worried about choosing wrong when they make their character are worried because, well, I'd have to start over, right? And they don't know how long it takes. Like, they don't know if they have to make a new character or how long it takes if they have to reroll, like, for any reason. Simon! I mean, you're close enough, Shiro. You kind of got it right. His name's Simon. More dogs! Stun! How about some more dogs? Throw more dogs! More dogs! More dogs. Throw more dogs. Now, DPS it very slowly. And when I mean slow, I mean very slow. Can I pet that dog? Probably can. It'll probably corrupt you. Whee! Excuse me. I'm coming through. Out of my way. What the dog doing? Ow. Ow. Guess it didn't work. Tried to cast Banish on me and then it didn't work. Blap. How does the fight with the dogs work? Well, a lot of things apply a stacking debuff to you, and I believe when you get 3 stacks of it, you explode, which in turn gives more stacks to everyone else, which is why it tends to have this, like, chain reaction effect, because then one explosion causes other people to explode, which then causes other people to explode. But if you can, like, finish the fight before anyone explodes, you're good. And the dogs can give stacks, I believe. So one way you can go about it is just make sure to kill everything and don't stand in the goopy goop in the center of the arena, because that also gives stacks. Ow. Here's a tip for this upcoming boss. Try to not be too close together, because the one thing that can wipe us is the body slam. Everything else, we can kind of just live it. But the body slam can, like, double kill people. So spread out a little bit if you can. Aside from that, I'm not actually sure what's best to do in this fight, because if you kill the ads, then the bird gets angry. If you don't kill the ads, then the ads overwhelm you, so... I don't actually know. I think she's gonna body slam soon. Or maybe not? Oh, now she got angry. Oh, no body slam. Nice. Hey, guinea piggy. No, not necessarily. When a boss does a tank buster, it might be a good idea to use one defensive cooldown, which means something like Vengeance or Rampart. In casual content like this, you might not need to do anything. But it's not a bad idea to do something. Arm's length doesn't work on most bosses, so there's no need to use it at all unless there's a knockback coming. If a boss is using an attack that like hits in an area, like an avoidable area of effect attack that hurts everyone, using Reprisal is particularly good there. If there's multiple tanks, using Reprisal when the boss is attacking the other tank could be smart. But yeah, you know, don't have to think too hard on it. Actually, I think the more important advice to take here, Guinea Piggy, is if you're fighting a lot of mobs, or just like a pack of enemies, that's actually where you want to use your defensive cooldowns, more than on bosses when you're still learning. Because the, like, so-called trash packs can absolutely kill you, and they can more often than not surprise you better than a boss can. So you really want to make sure you're using your cooldowns on non-boss packs as well. This is a common mistake. I actually have a few tank starter guides that might help you. And I think my warrior starter guide also explains, like, in vague terms, how to use your defensive cooldowns in a dungeon. Also, that is also true, Rutnius. If you use Vengeance and Arm's Length at the same time, the slowing effect that Arm's Length can apply will not work due to a weird mechanic in the game where you can only counter with one thing at once, and Vengeance's counterattack takes priority. But yeah, you wouldn't want to use both at the same time anyway. Yeah, good luck, Guinea Pig. Guinea Piggy. I have a lot of content on the channel, so if you can if you Google something or even just search on YouTube and look for something like Chaiji how to tank or warrior guide, I'll have something for you. I guarantee it. And it might just answer the questions that you have. I think we can just kill the boss. Limit break! Kill the trash too! Blam! Waboom! It's really funny with Pharaoh's Sirius. It's a really fast dungeon. If you don't wipe to something. You can also ask in the Discord, that's true. Oh yeah, by the way. I believe, at least for now, that this link, well, it's missing the HTTP, I suppose, would also work. Right, let me just do this. Sorry for interrupting your conversation, I should have just left. If you would like to join me for leveling roulette, come on over to me. Wait a minute, is there a second group that is still in? It's a little hard, there's a lot of people here. Yeah, that new link became usable when we had a generous 14th boost on the server. Any dungeon can be fast if you know how it goes. I mean, true. It's just more that Founder Sirius, I'm pretty sure, is particularly fast. Because there's not that many walls in it. And the thing is, like, for example, the very first pull in the dungeon, the one that I did where I was like, I'll probably use Super Polite, that pull has a tendency to wipe if you have 3 randos that don't expect it. Especially if the healer and or the tank don't expect it. If you kept track of the cooldowns I used, I'm pretty sure I used Nebula, Camouflage, and Reprisal. And I think I also stunned something. Normally you'd have someone use 1 cooldown. And if the healer isn't ready for it, maybe death. So usually it's a better idea to like split the pull up in 2 with randos. And that happens with other pulls in the dungeon as well. And if you take every single pull we did and split it up in 2, then you'd like possibly double the length. Samuel says it was actually through Caetsu that I learned to not start Paladin single target rotations with Fight or Flight and the Recreated Chain. Yeah, because of the waiting for raid buffs. And also, you can set up a little bit more. Hey Bo, hope you're doing well. And hey Melody, I absolutely agree. That's actually kind of the point that I try to make. You might look at my channel, see all the videos of me talking about optimization and, oh, you have to do this, and, ooh, this is mistakes, and this is bad, and don't do that. I'm not like that guy who's saying you can't play something because you're not playing optimally. It's like a case of, do this because it's better. It's not a case of, well, if you're doing this, then you might as well not play, right? Like, I'm not like that. I actually specifically want everyone to... Oh, can we bring the Kabi? I specifically want people to play whatever they find the most fun, and I believe that a lot of people enjoy games more when they play it well and play it quote-unquote right, with right, of course, being, you know, you're not doing something wrong. God, it's single target Dotton. Oh no. That's also what you'll see, like in my tank guides. I'll be like, you can pull bigger if you're not confident with it. You know, get confident with it. Like, practice and work your way up. Not that you have to, but everyone will expect you to. So you'll kind of have to eventually. Like, it's the difference between being too friendly and being realistic, I think. Oh, Tower of Zod! Everyone, get used to this. When Dawn Trail comes out, every time you queue for a leveling roulette, there's a very high chance you'll have a Viper or Pictomancer. And it'll be this. Hey, welcome to the Cult with the Pink, Melody. Thank you so much for the support, and I hope you enjoy the emotes. Zod is the question. Stun. Thank you for the gifted membership as well, Melody. Thank you so much. And I hope you enjoy the emotes again, Solictation. I think you've been gifted previously, haven't you? Thank you for the additional gifted membership, Melody. Thank you. It's the wall of green. Thank you. And enjoy the emotes Tekna. You get a sub and you get a sub. Don't try to run away. You're gonna get a subscription. That is true. If you are in the Discord community server, whoops, I should have used a defensive cooldown in this pull. Sorry about that, Zaf. What do you mean that I need to use more than Bloodwedding? I thought I was a warrior. I know what I'm doing. That one Imperial is just really, really tanking it. Here's a really weird thing. If you make the things that Mindruva here uses that apply dots do 0 damage, it actually doesn't apply a dot to you. That's probably not hardly very surprising, is it? But it's kind of funny sometimes when it works. Hey Shaq, hope you're doing well. The problem is that those dots, like their initial application, hit like, wow! So it's relatively unlikely that it'll actually work. I think I discovered this. I think Ymir was really like paying attention and noticed when I was soloing this. I think it was Ymir. And it was nice, but then I was like, I can't do anything with it. I can't actually do it, so. Nerd, nerd. And then ice. Doesn't that happen for any attacks applying a dot? I think it's most Yarps. It was just more to say that. See, that's what I usually say with boss mechanics, is that usually it's true, but sometimes it isn't. So I usually like count the ones where I've seen it happen, because sometimes there's exceptions. Like for example, you might be like, well, if you have a shield to set the knockback on Ifrit, normal, hard, or extreme to 0, then the knockback doesn't happen. But there are other bosses where not only do they not care about your barrier, they will actually kill you. Like, they'll knock you back through an invulnerability. Like, they just don't care. So, like, basically what I'm getting at is the reason why I'm like, oh, it works here, it doesn't work here, is because there are exceptions. Exactly, Zabs is consistently inconsistent. And yep, that is right, Melody. I did talk a little bit about this at the start of the stream. The Wondrous Tales you pick up this week will last, so you can hand it in during the early access next week. However, if you're not starting on Dawntrail until the official release on the Tuesday after, then it will not last. So make sure to grab it, make sure to fill it, but do not hand it in. Yeah, no worries, Melody. I'm not saying that you did anything wrong. Like, I was just saying, yeah, we talked about that. Exactly. It's important for those that want a free quick level up on release. Also, another tip is try to save second chances so you can more easily fill out the second one on release. But yeah, you can actually see this one I picked up today. You can see that it runs out the 7th. No, wait, the 2nd next month. So it will last. You just have to make sure to pick up another one once you hand it in. Don't worry about it, Mo. The thing is that the thing is, what's going to happen, the people that are rushing through it will probably be done once the weekend is over. Like, before the official, like, Tuesday release, the people that are, like, trying to finish it quickly and efficiently will already be done. So, like, running yourself ragged, trying to be ready for Dawn Trail on release is just going to make it not a good time for you. Like, if you're having fun hurrying, that's a different story. But don't ruin your fun by forcing yourself to hurry. Like, all of the tips that I also give and others give for, like, being extra prepared for Dawn Trail is also something that is technically optional. As Steve says, you will have a few years to get it all done before the next expansion comes out. Of course, if you want to experience it for the first time with your friends while they experience it for the first time, then you have to hurry if they're already ready. But I'm just saying, try to not ruin it for yourself. Is there any information on where in Gridania the Pixelmancer quest will be? I don't know. Does anyone know? I put all the information that I had on this subject in my Dawn Trail preparation guide I put out like a month or two ago, I think. Hey Obama, I hope you're doing well. And I'm pretty sure the only thing we know is it's in Gridania. But that should be good enough. Yeah, exactly, Shiro. By using the Wondrous Tales prep trick that we're all talking about, you'll be able to run your first dungeon as Tower of Zod if you like, so that you can get 1,001 Tower of Zod runs instead of just 1,000. Preliminary patch notes should have it. That's true. The problem is we're probably are we not getting the patch notes like when the servers go down? I'm pretty sure we're not getting anything until the servers go down, right? Or do you think the preliminary ones will be before that? Hey, Mr. M. Hope you're doing well. Well, if we do get preliminary patch notes, we will probably know... and we'll probably know where it is before the servers go down then. And that's also a good point, Graphite. You could do that with Crystarium or Yulmore. But yeah, the Vipers and Pictomancers will be able to, like, get new weapons. From Poetics. Raki says all classes should be forced to start at Sastasha even if they purchased a skip, but everything opens back up after that. Why? I think I know what you're going for, that, oh, you need to have, like, the entry, like, the starter dungeon, so that, like, you know how to do a dungeon. The reason why I'm saying why is because Sastasha is so easy that a monk can solo it. For the record, I'm joking. Ah, okay. now the things are starting to add up. Now it's adding up. Exactly. Even a monk can solo it. And the reason why I'm saying even a monk is because most other jobs can solo it because you can kite nearly everything in the dungeon. And anything with an instant ranged attack can thus solo the dungeon. As long as you have a ranged instant attack, you can solo the dungeon. But it turns out Monk can solo the dungeon without any ranged attacks. You just punch hard enough. Just make sure your punches really count. Anything but Scathe. No. Black mages solo Sastasha by using Scathe. By the way, I'll have you know, as far as my tests suggest, the best healer for soloing Sastasha is actually White Mage. Because they're the only ones in Sastasha with a ranged instant attack that does upfront damage. Because Arrow does upfront damage. Scathe Mage, yep. You use Swift Cast to use Blizzard 1 so you can recover some MP. And then you just spam Scathe while kiting everything. Run out of MP? Doesn't matter, you just keep kiting. If you can fight, like if you can make enough of a gap, you can cast Blizzard 1 like proper. But otherwise you just kite everything. I think the funniest thing that I ran into is the big boy ad that has like the captain's key or whatever it's called. If you just clear enough of the dungeon, you can kite that guy from that room all the way to the entrance, or almost, and then just circle it, and then go back. Gleaming says, I'm not even kidding, a ARF with a sage who had never done a dungeon before was one of my worst roulettes ever. That does not surprise me. I think one of my worst dungeons ever was a Gimlet Dark with a Dark Knight that didn't really speak English and had never done a dungeon before. The healer was like, they had, I believe, done dungeons before, but they were also like not that good. So they couldn't compensate for the Dark Knight who had no idea what they were doing. I believe we had to abandon on the final boss because the bombs would kill the healer and no one in the group could rest aside from the healer, and the Dark Knight wasn't skilled enough to like do the last bit of the boss without a healer. I don't even know if it was possible for a Dark Knight to do that at the time, but it was more the principle that our group was not capable of doing it without the healer, and the healer was not capable of doing the mechanic. Like, that's the key problem. Oh. I was just about to say, are we going to have to do this whole mechanic with the boss just going, nope, I can't die, I'm doing a thing. You timed out of it. You didn't even abandon. You straight up timed out. Ugh. What? Rocky says, it's funny you mention White Mage because I was thinking of a run I actually had where there was a White Mage who skipped and they just didn't use any powers and let me die twice. And it was amazing. Wait, how was it amazing? I'm guessing it was amazingly shocking. I don't know, Derpy. It feels like they did the same thing in with Holminster Switch. I think part of it comes from I don't actually know, because usually the argument is, well, sometimes some players will be undergeared, and sometimes it's because a job is lacking an action they get at level 84, 94, 74, whatever. But with Tower of Zot, at least, the tanks have their big boy cooldown unlocked at 82. And it's still challenging, even if you have good gear and getting synced down. Samuel says, only instance I timed out of, I was early into playing and made the unfortunate decision to queue for Ramu Extreme outside of Party Finder. Yeah. The only time I think I've timed out of an Extreme, like outside of like Party Finder stuff, twice. One of them was one of my first runs in Mental Roulette where I landed in Sephiroth Extreme. We didn't get very far. The second time was the Good King Mugglemark, praise be its fluffiness, Extreme that was in video on this channel. In the Mental Roulette. Oh, that's an unfortunate timing, Ilana. I feel like the scary thing with Extremes is that the higher level you get, the less forgiving they are. And some of them are just particularly problematic. Yeah, but that is actually, speaking of the people that skip, I've heard a lot of people suggest that the reason why there might be more players that seem to have no idea what they're doing in random duties at the moment might be because apparently there's a sale on the level skips. And the funny thing with that is that I would not recommend you buy a level skip if it's the first time you're leveling up. Like, if it's the first time you're leveling up, do not buy a level skip. If you buy one, well, then you have to play a different job. Sorry. Because you're basically choosing to skip the learning experience that comes with that. Like, a lot of players are like, yeah, I'll just level to 90 and then I'll figure out how the job works. Or I'll buy a skip or something and then I'll figure it out at level 90. But the thing is, for most of these players that are like that, they also kind of already know how a job works. Like, that's the thing, is that when Endwalker came out, I sat down and figured out how Summoner worked. Because I was going to play Summoner, but they completely overhauled how it works, so I had to figure it out. And that took me like 5 minutes. But if you were a new player, Endwalker release, you log in, you're like, I don't know, level 65 or something, and now your Summoner's dots are gone. And your pet doesn't attack anymore. And also you can only summon Kabi. And you got all these new spells. First of all, you might not even have expected it. You might not even realize there's this change. But second of all, you might have no idea how to approach learning it from that point. Brov says, how much skills is good to prepare for the next expansion? That depends on what you're doing. If you don't plan to, like, rush into Savage or anything, any amount will do. You'll figure it out when you get there. If you want a Savage raid, just in general, you should probably have the money for a crafted gear set. Ish. Something like that. Depending on how fast you want to get on that, you might need anywhere between like 2 million gil and possibly 10 million gil. Because what's going to happen is on day 1 of the Savage Raid tier, the crafted gear is going to cost a fortune. If you wait a week, or even just a few days, it might not cost nearly as much. If you want to Savage Raid, and not only do you want to Savage Raid, you want to beat the Savage Raid week 1, you might need substantially more than 10 million, because you might need a full crafted set the moment it's available, which means that that crafted set might cost you way more than 10 million. And you will also probably want to pentameld it, or at least double meld it at minimum, probably also pentameld it, which again, millions. So, like, depending on how hardcore you want to be, the number you might need can be 0 and like 50 million gil. It depends on how much you want to go, like how crazy you want to go with it. Exactly, Fat Man. And you know what? The first week of... So, you can go back and check this if you don't believe me. When Endwalker released, the first video I released in Endwalker was a video where I went over how I approach keybinds. Like, how I approach my hotkeys. Like, I explain how it works, how my special bind with my MMO mouse and all that works. And then I talk through why I put buttons where, while I fill in Summoner, Sage, and Reaper for the first time. Then the week after, I made a level 1 to 50 Arcanist Summoner starter guide. That was my first, like, Endwalker content video, was a starter guide for summoners. And the funny thing is that a lot of the comments, and again, you can go back and see, were like, all the other summoner guides are for level 90. So all of the, like, the sprouts were just forgotten. Who cares about them? I made the starter guide. Immediately. First things first, Summoner starter guide. Then Reaper starter guide. Then Sage starter guide. But Summoner first for some reason. That reason being the job that I leveled first. So, yeah, that's also part of the motivation for why I'm going to go Black Mage for Dawntrail. So I have the knowledge to make a starter guide for the Black Mages. When all of the Black Mage guides that exist already will be kind of off. And welcome back, Cyanide. And you see, Iraqi, the problem is specifically if people skip and then have no idea what to do with it. If you, like, basically, if you buy a level skip, then congratulations, this is now your first boss fight. Fight this for an hour or something, or until you get it. You're not going to queue in and then go, I don't know what to do. Like, figure out how your job works and then subject other people to it if you're going to buy a skip. BSR says, I can't believe they did this with the gear again. Yeah, I'm also surprised. Oh, which video? The keybind one, Cat Damon? Yeah, I think the reason was that because at the time all of my videos sounded like that, I tried to make sure I did that. But something that some of you may have heard is like, maybe months ago, was that people would come in, get to the stream and be like, why do you sound different on stream? And that was the problem, was that I was trying to make sure that I sounded the same everywhere, but turns out it's very hard to like speak in a very specific way for minutes or like 20 minutes without interruption. Watching old Kai videos and putting the sound on 300%. I will say in my defense on that, I listened to my own videos on 50% volume and had no issues hearing it. So I assumed it would be fine. Now I just blast my own ears while making my videos. It's fine, everyone. I can take it. Right. If you'd like to join me for Trials Roulette, come on over to me. What's happening with sandwich talk in the in-game say chat, by the way? How many are we? My system is not that good. I see that I have one person that cannot go. That player is in another party. 2 of you are in another party. 2 of you are in another party. Still in another party. Sorry, Rust. Also tune yourself to G minor from now on and only refer to yourself in the third person as Robo Guy. Yeah, Samuel, that does sound like Icy Veins. Part of the problem there is I believe Icy Veins kinda got in on the whole Final Fantasy XIV thing during Endwalker. Like, before that, they didn't really cover Final Fantasy XIV. So, like... I believe there was a period where Icy Veins was like... Sometimes their guides were extremely off. But it's gotten better, and they're much better now. But it did have that effect that, oh, this new kid on the block, aren't your World of Warcraft guide website? You know, the deal. So, like that, like the thing is, I knew Icy Veins from playing World of Warcraft. And they're usually good, which was why it was concerning when there was these rumors that it weren't very accurate. But it's gotten better. It has gotten a lot better. Then again, not everyone wants a long text guide. Whoops. Storm's Crown, please. Oh boy. Oh boy. Are you ready? And it'll be... Mount Ordeals. Yes, totally. Okay, it was not Mount Ordeals. Well, I'm pulling now. You know, that's relatable, Shiro. It does feel weird, doesn't it?
When you play with fire.
Where's the rest of my melee combo? Titania, please. Where melee combo? Did you eat it? Ow! Ugh.
We're sick of this cramped old castle. Let's play in forts.
Nice one, Zach. Twist and sprout. You plan on doing guides for Big Pigmenza and Vibe? I plan to do guides on all jobs. I just kind of have to, like, learn them first. And given there's like 21 of them in Dawn Trail. Oh, whoops. It'll take a while to learn all of them. Yeah, for example, with Icy Veins, I believe it's like a group of people making the guides. So like that helps them to get like on the case faster. But that doesn't help if you don't like their style. And I know a lot of people like my style specifically. You, the AoEs are coming. Oh, wait. What? What killed your game? Bigger's better. Yeah, that also makes sense, Shiro. The thing is, I'll probably be doing that on stream. Like, figuring it out. So that'll also be there. Oof. This is so much fun getting punched. Ow. Can you give me a ow, that hurt? There you go. You play rough. No, I play ARF. 2 limit breaks. Yeah. Whoa, what was happening with the lighting there? Nice. Yeah, the plan is on my end. Right when Dawn Trail comes out, I'll probably be streaming a lot, doing the MSQ, leveling jobs, and whenever I have a job leveled, I'll start work on the guide. Not on stream, but like when I have a job leveled, that's when I'll be like, all right, how like make a starter guide, make a high level guide, which of course means that when the Viper and Pictomancer guides come out, I'll already probably be level 100 in the starter guides. And part of the reason why I go that extra step is because some jobs, it makes sense, at least to me, to give a rotation that like grows into the bigger shoes at higher level. A particular job I've done that with in the past is Dragoon, where if you check the level 50 opener and the level 60 opener, level 70 opener, and level 80 opener, like as it progresses, you'll see that it's more like I just fill in the holes rather than like extend the rotation and completely rearrange it every time like a new thing is added, because that way you don't have to like completely relearn everything, because now you have to retrain your muscle memory. But if I don't know how the job looks at level 100, then I have no way of making sure that whatever opener and rotation advice I give you for level 80 actually grows into the level 100 experience. There's also the argument that leveling to 100, there's a reasonable amount of testing of the job to the point where know if something is completely wrong at level 80 before offering it. Hey Kokochu, hope you're doing well. Let's do normal raids next. If you'd like to join me for normal raids, come on over to me. We have 2 that really want to join that are not yet in the group. Do we have anyone that doesn't mind setting this one out so we can have some rotation? Okay. Nope. Thank you, Graham. Bangladesh says, I feel like it's a reasonably small amount of people making a mountain out of a molehill. I do kind of understand the problem, but I think they're approaching it in the wrong way. I need to recover from dying to Titania. Obama says, do you guys have any idea why my level 80 Red Mage quest wouldn't be showing up? Have you if you've done all of your Red Mage, I think maybe it shows up somewhere else than it normally does. Oh, you figured it out. Sorry. You know, I'm like, I think that the Helo Strike thing is approaching it in the wrong way. It's screaming about a problem and offering no solution. And these kinds of gamer strikes also have a tendency to be a case where they try to make it sound like it's a huge movement, but when it really happens, they don't actually do it. I think you're missing what I'm saying, Lexi. I'm saying the people that are doing the whole healer strike thing are not offering any good solutions. And also true, Shiro. Uh-oh. I for a moment there I was worried that I pulled too soon and we had a very angry ninja. Parent says just bring back cleric stance. Problem solved. Yeah, it's solved for the people that want that, and then there's a huge amount of players that absolutely wouldn't want that or like that. Like that's the problem. And yeah, this is indeed a non-Alexander raid. Yeah, the thing is, there's a lot of people that have a problem with what's happening. A lot of people that don't care. And the solutions often prioritize a very specific section of players. This is preference. And that's why most of the solutions offered, like, they have a tendency to very clearly highlight who wants that solution. That's true, Ham. They bring back Cleric Stance, but it's the Stormblood version. That just gives you a 5% damage boost. That would be kind of funny. Also, hey Kirihin, hope you're doing well. I can never remember what the sign is on these. One of them noodle a little bit less. Or something. Oh, it's one of them that just noodles. It's the noodly one. I want a boss fight that actually introduces the noodly one. Yeah, see, Perrin, the problem I think, and see, the thing is, that's just what I see, right? I don't know if that's actually the full picture of the problem. It's... Oh, right, the glare mechanic. It's two sides of the same problem. A lot of people find healing a little dull, but part of the reason they feel like that is because there isn't that much to heal, according to some people, which is true for some people. And the solution to that is either, if you're going to attack 99% of the time of a fight anyway, then make it more interesting. Which is a reasonable ask. Right? That makes sense. I can't find the safe spot for this. Oh. Oh, right, I got pushed down. I have actually not done this fight very many times. I always get confused. This is I get it once every few months, and I can never remember it, so I always get it wrong. One solution is make attacking as a healer more exciting, but a lot of healers don't actually want that. As you know, there are a lot of healers that are actually annoyed that they have to attack at all. Those would not be satisfied by getting more attacks, even though in Dawntrail, healers are in fact getting more attacks. The alternative is make it so that healers actually have to heal more. But that is more than just make things hit harder. We're already, like, approaching the point where every boss mechanic nearly wipes the party, because that's what it takes to force people to actually do something. And the real solution is probably to like dial back the healing everyone else has. Make a shooter more necessary, maybe? I mean, that would be like forcing people to bring healers by basically you just put in every dungeon you put a debuff that says you didn't bring a healer on it, and then you lose. That feels wrong, doesn't it? If they just put a doom, like the first boss in every dungeon in Dawntrail applies a Ishuna removable doom that, and it does it twice in the fight within like 30 seconds. Specifically so that a bard could not deal with it. Or even better, they remove Warden's Paean, and then they make it so that every boss in Dawntrail, the first boss, has a doom that is removed by Ishuna, so that you can't beat it without a healer. That doesn't feel like a solution, does it? That feels like they just went, no, it's not a problem. Clearly, you bring a healer in every dungeon. Because we forced you to. Like, that's one step removed from just making it so that you can't queue for a dungeon unless you have a healer in it. Like, they might as well just do that. Like, just make it so that you can't enter a dungeon without a healer. Parent says, I think it's kind of a bad take to say healers should DPS less. Why are you playing a PvE game if you can't even affect the environment? And see, the thing there, Parent, is I think a lot of the players that are like, healers shouldn't be attacking, as in shouldn't be attacking, are coming from different MMOs where that's the gold standard. If you want to attack as a healer, you just switch to a specialization on that class that is meant to attack, and then when you're healing, you switch to full healer mode. But in Final Fantasy XIV, if white mages weren't meant to attack, how do you do the MSQ as a white mage? Right? Like, what do you do then? So that's why healers kind of need to also have meaningful attacks, because otherwise the main quest will be really, really weird. Or they have to make it so that every time there's a solo task, they have to give healers like a guardian to walk with them. And then there's also just players that think, well, I want to heal because I'm a healer, which, again, the thing is, that's pretty sound logic, right? I chose a healer because I want to heal the group. Why is it that I'm attacking? And part of the argument there is, of course, that, well, you're also healing. It's just that you're also attacking. Alright, Rust, thank you for coming. Which is why, usually when I talk about this, I don't say we should make it so that healers can't attack or don't have time to attack. As I see it, it would be better if healers weren't, like, if healing wasn't so abundant that healers can attack all the time. Like, that's the camp I'm in. I think it's kind of weird that it can be viewed as a mistake that a white mage uses Medica 2 on the regs. Like, I feel like that should be expected, that they would do that. I feel like it's weird that a scholar in a dungeon might not have to cast a single healing spell if your group is good enough. I think that's a little weird. But that's how the game is. And I think part of the problem with the whole healer strike thing is that it has reached a point where if your group is good enough, the healer hardly has to do anything. Like, it's not even, oh, the healer isn't using any GCD healing. It's, oh, the healer didn't need to be here. And I kind of get that one. Like, kind of, but I feel like part of the problem is also that we've gotten so good at the content that is currently there that we've gotten that good, right? And it's also not true for all content. That's true, Lexi. It's not true for all content. And again, I think they could probably like step up the difficulty of the casual content a notch when it is that easy, right? Good luck without a healer. Maybe more unavoidable damage? One part of the problem there, Leah, is actually unrelated to the expert roulettes themselves. Something that I'm sure a lot of you will nod in agreement to is this is the hardest dungeon at level 90. Right? There's something this dungeon has that the other max level dungeons do not have. It is shown on screen as I'm whizzing it by here. In this dungeon, you can at most overcome, like outscale it by 30 item levels. But technically, you already were 560 when the dungeon came out, and it was hard then. This dungeon, you can surpass by 60 item levels. Same for this one. This one, we're actually back to 40. But I think part of the reason why a lot of people found it easy was that a lot of us were already at like 590, and this dungeon might actually be balanced around 570 or 580, where this one is balanced around 560. And this continues. This one you can overgear by 55 item levels. This one is only 40, but by the time it came out, you probably had 620. This one can be overcome with 60 item levels because it has no limit. And this one came out so late that most of us had 650 already. And yet that's also true. Dead Ends isn't that hard. It's only hard relative to the other dungeons. Lexi says, I was gonna say good luck in Dead Ends without a healer too. Did you know that Warrior can solo Dead End synced? Yes. Just don't get hit by the Ishuna Doom. You will die on the final boss without a healer? How does you will die on the final boss without a healer and also Warrior can solo it add up? Oh right, the DPS will die without a healer. That's true. that is a possibility. The warm glow hurts a lot. Weird, they just call it something as tame as warm glow. Yeah, having tighter item level sync on content would help a lot. But this is something I've talked about like at least like half a dozen times before, I think, is if you make the item level sync too tight, then it feels like there's no point in gearing. Notably, when Dead Ends came out, like when Dead Ends was current content and new in 6.0, the highest item level gear you could get was 580, and it dropped from the 2 extremes available. If you were not doing extremes, the best you could get was 570, the Moonward gear and all that, which you could buy for tomestones. Smileton and Stigma Dreamscape was also available at that point, but technically in the raid tier they were relevant. The highest item level gear was 600. This also applies for Altadal's Legacy. This also causes this problem where every second dungeon feels weirdly weak in a way. Because Lapis Manalis might feel a little undertuned when it comes out, while Felcourt of Troya feels extremely undertuned later. because Fail Court of Troya comes out with the raid tier, which means that you had item level 600 gear, then they release crafted gear, and then Lapis Manalis comes out, but at that point you already have like mostly 620 gear. And you can see the key here is that the item level sync, the ones that don't have one, are in the final raid tier. The ones that have ones were in a raid tier, and the item level sync, for the most part, peak at around the point you were supposed to peak at. So basically, the only thing where Smileton and Stigma Dreamscapes item level syncs matter once Fail Court of Troya comes out, because there you could have greater item level than that. But if you made, say, Smileton's item level sync 570, then all the 3 dungeons in the first raid tier right on launch you wouldn't be able to gain anything from getting better gear because you're already peaked there. And they already have like stretched this to its limits. The best thing you could do is make the dungeons a little harder, but that's already the solution that I suggested, I'm pretty sure. So that you can, like, so that it's more meaningful to outgear them, right? So there's not that much we can do without, like, just going, well, content has to be harder. Just straight up, because if you make an item level sync that is a more strict, then it removes the meaning in actually gearing up, because you don't get to use your gear. Make the dungeons more engaging, unique, something other than 3 bosses with 2 trash packs in between. Well, I mean, Lapis Manalis was 1 pack, then 1 pack, and then 2 packs, then a boss. And then 2 packs, then a boss, and 2 packs, and then 2 packs, then a boss, and then 2 packs, and 2 packs, and a boss. Yeah, sometimes the dungeons try to get a little bit creative. But yeah, I do agree, Solicization, and this is also something I've talked about before. Take a moment, everyone, and imagine that you're a dungeon designer for Final Fantasy XIV. If you make the trash packs interesting and difficult, then some players will complain. If you make them too easy, some players will complain. And if no one complains, then in a few weeks, when they're tired of being careful in this dungeon because it's a little harder than normal, they'll be really tired of this dungeon and really annoyed. Like, if you try to do anything creative with a dungeon, the players that are, like, the stronger players will be like, well, I'll just pull everything. And the only way you can make that interesting is by making that particular scenario interesting. And I don't know how to do that. Like, I'm shocked that the trash packs in dungeons have telegraphed attacks, because at this point, I feel like the, like, tail end of Mists of Pandaria April Fool's patch notes, where they were like, yeah, you can fly in raids now. When you fly over the trash packs, they like break into choreographed dance, because clearly it doesn't matter. The trash packs don't matter, is what I'm getting at. It feels like they don't matter and no one cares. So being the dungeon designer making the trash packs must suck. Because if you make them challenging, people will find it annoying. If you make them easy, then people complain that it's easy. And you can't win, because ultimately, players just want the reward at the end. It feels like. And yeah, exactly, Tekna. The problem with novelty is that it's nice to see maybe 3 times. The first time you do Lapis Manalis, it's kind of interesting with, like, the 4 mobs and then the griffin with a few mechanics. When you get that dungeon the 50th time, VSS just remove the walls. I mean, that just leads to the same problem. Like, that's the exact same problem. New dungeon design stat ad. No trash, just 3 balls in a row. Yeah, exactly. Phil Court of Troya has a unique boss. See, actually, the first boss in Phil Court of Troya, I originally praised it because I thought it was really funny that the players that are like trying to do their 2-minute burst, everything perfectly, there's a really high chance that all of their cooldowns just either they don't do anything on the first boss, or they use it and then everything's just borked out by the time the boss is over. But the 50th time you do Phil Court of Troya, you realize that it doesn't matter that you don't use your cooldowns. You just save it, and then when the big boss head comes at the end, you use everything, and then you just go from there. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Four bosses, it needs to take the same time still. Yeah, they just add like bosses like the Tyrant, where you just kill them in 15 seconds. I'm just kidding, but it would be interesting if they mixed up the formula a little bit for dungeons. And please, more than 2 dungeons in the expert roulette, yeah? Please, please, please. The reason why I personally have gotten so tired of Phil Court of Troya is I believe Phil Court of Troya was in expert roulette when I was making this, like, the second iteration of all of my Endwalker job guides, which meant that for footage reasons I did Phil Court of Troya many times more than once a day. And the saddest part about the first boss in Phil Court of Troya is that it could have been interesting. It could have been interesting. You have an AR relic weapon? I do not. But I do have a lot of Atma on one of my retainers. Well, technically I have this. Does that count? Drop dungeons and make more trials. I feel like that would be a bit sad. The problem with dungeons is that they're not made in a super interesting way, perhaps. But I feel like they're a good part of the game. Anyway, with that said, if you would like to join me for Alliance Raids Roulette, come on over to me. By the way, who is a Kokyu Ryu? Oh, how many do we have? Should we make 2 groups? How many more people do we have that wanted to join? Should we make 2 groups? It's Mr. M. Okay. Maybe make tank healing more costly, like having Aurora cost a cartridge. Bob says that's the same as removing the skill. That is correct. There's actually a problem we ran into with Dark Knight before the rework in Shadowbringers. You could use Dark Arts, which was like you had an OGZD that made your next thing that could spend Dark Arts stronger. Dark Arts cost MP. If you used it on an attack, it usually made the attack do more damage. You could spend it on Dark Mind to make Dark Mind reduce the magic damage taken doubly so. I believe it went from 15 to 30%. But that's a DPS loss, so you wouldn't do that. You could use it on Dark Passenger, which was like a frontal cone AoE or something. A line AoE. To make it blind enemies. But that, I don't think it was a DPS loss, but you wouldn't use it on single target, because that would be a DPS loss. So using something... Like, I've talked about this a million times with energy drain. But yeah, if you make it so that you can sacrifice DPS for defensive stuff, it's almost like deleting that defensive tool. Almost. Like, yeah, if you need it, that's a different story. But, wow. Graham, would you like me to... Well, maybe we should do 2 groups, so that we might be able to queue in together. Is that better? Should we make 2 groups? We could split up in a 5 and a 5. Well, a 6 and a 5. We'll do a 6 and a 5. Do we have a... Do we have one more that'll join Graham's group? Right, I will do a... Wait a minute, doesn't it become a 5 and a 5? I think it becomes a 5 and a 5. I think. Like this? And it's just because you went over there, Sav. It didn't mean it like that, but it was just we... If you'd rather be with me, that's okay. It's just we have 5 and a 5. Right? Isn't there... Aren't you 5 if you have Zav as well? Are you 5 in group 2? You're 5 now. Okay. I don't care if I'm tanking. I'll play something else. Let's see how much healing 2 scholars can do. We're probably getting Crystal Tower, right, everyone? So what I'll do is I'll do a ready check. Group 2 should also do a ready check once you have like a group in order. Once we've done that, I will call out an Eorzea time where I will queue. Group 2 should queue at the same time. Right? That way there is a chance that we will land in the same duty. It's not guaranteed. Is Group 2 ready? Now that would be an interesting proposition, Obama. What if Bloodwetting cost Beast Gauge? Ooh. Ooh. Be careful saying that into a warrior forum. They might not like you. What? You take our baby away? It wouldn't go away, it's just that they would feel like they're losing a fell cleave every time they use Bloodwetting. Okay, group 2 is ready. I will queue when it says 11:45. Make TBN cost blood gauge. What would... How amazing of a turnaround that would be. Oh. We're not landing in the same duty, it seems. Oh well. I see Aradel also tried to intercept us. Sorry. He should have invited you. That's the point, right? Make them depend on their healer for healing until they can't anymore and need to help. Well, it's difficult because it's like... The thing is, then the whole talk with healer balance and all that is we want to make it so that healers feel more engaging, but if the solution is ruin all the fun the tanks have, like all of it, just smash it with a hammer, then all of the tanks will be mad instead. And you just replace healer strike with tank strike, right? So you need to find a way. By the way, not Circus Tower. But like if you take all of the stuff away that makes tanking really, really cool, then you just replace like the healer problem with a tank problem. So you need to find some sort of middle ground, right? You need to find a point where everyone's happy. And I don't know what that is. I usually say you would kind of need to nerf tanks a little bit to make room for the healers to be more meaningful. But just removing their ability, like removing a lot of the things, would be a problem. And the reason why you got done scathed. Oh man. Maybe we can rotate who's on strike. Healers be like, you've had the being able to solo everything too long, tanks. It's our turn. Yeah, the problem is that it's not as simple as just make the tanks entirely dependent on the healers, because there's a huge percentage of tanks that play tank because they like being at least partly self-sufficient. So if you take it all away immediately, that's not going to land well. Maybe if for example, if we gradually reduce the amount of like self-sustain the tanks have over a few expansions, it wouldn't hurt as much, it wouldn't sting as hard. But I don't think the solution is to make tanks entirely dependent on the healers. We need to find some sort of middle ground. And part of the problem is that tanks and players in general are so strong relative to like dungeons right now that, well, as I said, a tank can solo it. Like, you might be saying, well, it was harder in lower level dungeons when you didn't have as much toolkit. Scholar can solo Aurum Vale. Synced. So, like, it's possibly an Endwalker problem. Could be a Shadowbringer's problem. But it's a problem that goes deeper than, well, at high level, your toolkit is too powerful. Yeah, spell speed blue mage is fun. We don't want to support abusive tank healer relationships now, do we? And that's also true, Skip. If we replaced, like, if we made it so that tanks are totally reliant on healing from healers, then we're just replacing one god with another. Then you're replacing warrior tank gods with healer gods. It's the same problem, it's just a different job now, and it's very easy to say that it's not that bad when it's the healers that are, like, lacking something right now. That's also true, Samuel. Technically, if healers were strong enough, you wouldn't need a tank, you'd just have a DPS tank instead. By the way, the thing I was talking about with TBN and making a full circle is that in Stormblood, when TBN was added, it cost MP to use, but if the shield broke, it gave you half a blood gauge. So it was actually an efficient way to generate blood gauge. And it was also like some sort of converter, because presumably blood gauge was better than MP, right? So if you could do it successfully, it was kind of like a DPS gain. Possibly. And it is a little weird that they didn't make it so that TBN was a potential DPS gain. To, like, incentivize Dark Knights to use it more. It's instead just DPS neutral at best. Unless you're, like, really coordinated. Give Paladin a rest, by the way. Ah, yes, like the good old days where they could rest out of combat. Actually, Shiro, the weird thing is that if you remove a tank from a dungeon and just have healer and 3 DPS, a lot of the time it'll take longer. If you remove a healer, but your tank is capable of healing, like with a warrior, And sometimes it actually goes faster. But like it's really, really difficult because it's an awkward issue, let's say. Technically speaking, any job can raise out of combat. Yeah, true. True. Once. Because the Phoenix down is unique. But yeah, once. The rescue. Gleaming says, I tried using TPN on cooldown more often in recent months, but I keep finding it running out right before a big hit. Should I be trying to delay it a bit on fights I'm more familiar with? Yes. If you know there's a big attack coming, and TPN will miss that opportunity, then you should absolutely save it. And if you're not confident that TPN will actually break, then there's also an argument to be made to not use it. It's a little complicated because on trash packs, just using TPN on cooldown is super helpful, but sometimes it just won't break due to whatever circumstances. On the one hand, if it doesn't break, then it blocked a lot of damage, relatively speaking. On the other hand, if it doesn't break, then you're not taking close enough to enough damage to justify using TPN on cooldown. So maybe you're fine. But it's better if it saved the healer the possibility of needing to cast Cure 2 or something, then I'm pretty sure one holy cast is more damage due to Maim and Mend than one Flood of Shadow. So like if you can save the healer one single healing spell cast, it might be worth it. The ley lines. The ley lines. But the ley lines actually also do a backflip when you use the backflip. Like they actually backflip with you. They grow legs and then backflip. Hire me, Square Enix. That's a great idea, right? Also, hey, Gay Man, hope you're doing well. The Benediction. That's also a good one. That's a good one. That is true. The whole question of which job should have res is difficult. And like the thing is, there's a few ways they could approach it. The reason why res is so effective in a raid is because there's not really a limit to it, right? Back in the day, many years ago, or you know, in some levels of classic World of Warcraft, if a class had a combat res, as it is called there, you could use it every time it was available. Which meant, because Rebirth, I believe, had a 1.5 second cast time, had like a really long cooldown, but you could use it in combat. If you just brought more druids, you could just insta-res more people. Eventually, they put a cap on that by saying you can only use X amount of combat reses per fight. And then like an extra charge would accumulate like every 4 or 5 minutes in the fight. because it was a little too overpowered to have combat reses. And the same idea could help in Final Fantasy XIV. Instead of saying, oh, well, mages can't, like, some mages can't have res anymore, they could just go, well, it doesn't really matter. You only get 2 of them. In hard content, I would say. Like, I don't see a problem in having it uncapped in more casual content. But by putting a cap on it in hard content, you remove this, oh, well, the mages that have a res have a significant advantage of those that don't. Because your healers could spend all of the reses on their own. The only thing that a red mage being able to, like, Varese really quickly brings to the table is that you could have one person res 2 in quick succession. But if they made it like that, there's no reason to have a ridiculously long cast time on res. They could just make it rather quick and go, well, you only get 2 of them anyway, so does it really matter? And if they do that, then red mage isn't special either in that aspect. And sometimes this is also combated by, like, oh yeah, this boss fight is so strict that if you have to rest like more than 3 players, then you're not making the DPS check anyway, so too bad. They should add a rest button for me. Specifically Gleaming. So Gleaming gets, like, can you just imagine the patch notes? It's just patch notes, right? So we removed the raise, and Summoner no longer has Resurrection. However, we've added a Gleaming raise, which the player, Gleaming Armore, has. Specifically. No one else, just Gleaming. It's also instant, costs nothing, and actually is an OGCD with no cooldown. And it's also AoE. It's basically healer limit break with no animation lock and no cost. It's very balanced, right? Obama race. Raise is a white mage, Scholar as well, Gen Sage, red mage, and me. the blood wedding. And also doesn't give the weakened status, absolutely, that's very crucial. Yeah, that is also a solution, Shiro. Just make it so that that when you're doing, like, I don't know, like a savage boss fight or something, you just have charges of Phoenix Downs that you can use in combat. And like, just like, I believe Delubrum Regine Savage, only that res works. And then unlike the Delubrum Regine Savage, it isn't a chance. It always works. Civilization says no one has res, and if you die, you get kicked from the instance. Alright, Satan. And that's also a solution, give Paladin a raise on a cooldown, but I don't know. I feel like the better solution is genuinely to, like, reduce the amount of raises we have in general. And you, like, make it more controlled. But I don't know if that's the best solution. It just occurred to me that the boss actually didn't have physical immunity for a while, but only magic immunity. Never noticed that before. Oh, we got a lot of people there. Is Alliance C okay? Not immunity, but a barrier. Oh. Well, that changes some things. I never bothered to try and break it. That is concerning. Apparently, what causes it is when the players don't do the mechanics and just focus the boss. Kokuju says, do you think there could ever be a melee or physical healer? Based on the way the game is designed right now, no. The reason why that is the case is because in the game, a lot of boss mechanics are designed with the assumption that a healer is a ranged job. Like, if a mechanic targets a ranged player, like any ranged, it'll be a healer or a ranged or a mage. Similar to how if it targets like a close combatant, it'll target a melee or a tank. Usually they're so specific that they'll target a tank or a healer or a mage, ranged or mage, or melee. Like, they'll be specific about it, that it's a DPS or a support role. But that would still be a problem, because when they're targeting specifically a healer, they're assuming the healer is ranged. So, like, often they'll target a ranged DPS, like a mage or a ranged, and a healer, assuming they're both ranged. So if that isn't the case, it'll cause a lot of trouble. Like, that's basically it, is that because they're assuming that. World of Warcraft actually had this as a small issue at one point, but they kind of had to figure it out, because they have multiple healers that benefit from going into close combat. Like, the reason why I'm saying now they wouldn't is because now a lot of mechanics are assuming that healer's ranged. If they started making mechanics like more open to the idea that maybe a healer isn't ranged, then like it could become more feasible. But just like the tank thing where I said maybe if we like gradually take away like the self-sustain of tanks over a few expansions, it might be fine. In the same way, if we gradually like introduce more situations where healer would be compelled to get into close range, like Sage and Flemmer, eventually we might reach a point where it would be a bad idea to assume that a healer's ranged. Because a lot of the time they're absolutely not. There's also the aspect to it that you could have a melee healer and just be like, well, they have options to like temporarily go out of range, just like Paladin has, for example. So that if a mechanic requires you to step away, you can do that. But again, it requires a lot of thinking, and a lot of boss mechanics might need to be like adjusted to accommodate this new possibility. And that's also true, Leah. Another problem would also be that a melee healer would be pretty bad at dealing with boss mechanics that require ranged jobs. Like, maybe they make it so that the melee healer does more damage. Like, significantly more damage than other healers. But yeah, it's basically that it introduces a lot of, like, things that might be hard to figure out balance-wise. And a lot of mechanical problems. And yeah, for those that are like, what would a melee healer look like? In World of Warcraft, paladins don't, like, they're not required to be in melee range, but they have an ability that makes it so that they heal better players that are nearby. Like in a proximity AoE, you could say. That they heal better the closer they are. And, I mean, they can't shoot their auto attacks. And their filler is auto attacks and a few, like close range attacks. And, like, 1 or 2 ranged attacks. So, like, if they wanted to attack, they'd have to get close. And monks have this whole thing with fist weaving, which heals, well, at least it used to, heal players nearby for a percentage of the damage you did. You know, a little bit like Cardia. So, like, they have different variants of melee healers. Druids also did more damage, like, as a healer, if they went into cat form and did some rakes and stuff. Does Sacred Soil stack with another Sacred Soil? No. The damage reduction does not. I'm not 100% sure if the healing stacks, but the damage reduction does not. But if this hypothetical melee healer did acupuncture, so they attacked and healed by jamming needles in people, that's an idea. Yeah, there's a bunch of ways you could make a melee healer. It doesn't necessarily take that much, because obviously a melee healer would be like where they are. All right, Shiro. Oh, yeah, Shiro Okami. Have a good evening. Did your name change in the middle of the stream, or did I just never notice? Or am I mistaking if it was someone else? Anyway, I hope you have a good evening. But like, you can make a melee healer. Oh, Shiro, check who's just above your name. A melee healer would be as easy as only give it melee attacks. Boom. Done. Doesn't matter about the healing. Because Final Fantasy XIV's healing is so attack-centric, if you gave a healer exclusively melee attacks, like basically give it a full arsenal of things like Flemmer, boom, you have a melee healer. That wouldn't be very interesting or very inspired, because it doesn't really build on the melee healer idea, but it would fulfill the request, right? Like, that's like, done, I did exactly what you asked for. Yes, and not a single inch more, I see. Like, you could make a melee healer out of any of the healers. You just say Scholar's Broil now has a 5-yard range. Like, actually, you don't need to do anything more than that. You just say Scholar's Broil now has a 5-yard range. Yeah, you could use Ruin 2, and you can apply Biolysis at range, but that, like, spamming Ruin 2 would be a DPS loss, so why would you do that? Would this hypothetical melee healer have positionals, where you heal more if you jab them in the backside? I feel like we had this conversation on the Discord community server recently. Healer positionals and tank positionals. Ranged positionals. Could you imagine, in this alternate universe, they decided in Heaven's Ward. Just remember, in A Realm Reborn, if you didn't do a positional, the combo failed. Like, as in the combo failed and any side effects of it wouldn't work. Like, for example, if you didn't do Chaos Thrust from behind, no dots. They went to Heaven's Ward, where this still was the case, by the way, and went, there should be positionals for the other roles as well. So they do, like, Bards. They need to be exactly between 10 and 15 yalms away for certain attacks. And for others, they need to be 5 to 10 yalms away. And sometimes they have to shoot specifically from the side of the enemy. And mages also get that stuff. I'd be okay with this. It's the alternative timeline. Now you ask yourself whether that's a dark timeline or not. Exactly, Yurine. That does sound interesting. Glad it's not me. That's actually something that I've seen a lot. A while back, I made a few videos on the history of jobs, and an interesting thing that I saw a lot of the time was, wow, that's incredibly complicated. It sounds interesting. I'm glad it's gone, though. Like, I've seen it with pre-Endwalker Summoner, where people are like, wow, that's really complicated and really janky. Sounds fun, but on the other hand, I'm pretty glad I came in after it got reworked. And with Black Mage, Heavensward Black Mage especially. Good old Enochian with a duration on it. Exactly, Shiro. Bars with Monster Hunter critical distance. Measuring quadrant yarms is so much harder than just putting yourself in a quadrant, I feel. Well, they could give you some help. They'll put like circles on you to indicate the optimal distances or something. Like when you're in the correct distance, like a glow appears in the action to show you that it's good or something. Yeah, that's correct, Steve. There was a long period of time. There was a period of time where... So the melee attack range in World of Warcraft, I believe, is 5 yards, which is approximately the same as 5 yobs. Approximately. But the minimum distance that you could shoot at someone with a gun or a bow was 8 yards. So there was the so-called dead zone, which was, you know, around 6 or 7 yards. And if you could place yourself exactly there, then the hunter would just be like, I can't do anything. I'm not sure what classes could do something with that, but you of course need instant attacks. But yeah, there was this dead zone. Then at some point they just removed the dead zone, and then at some point they removed the concept that a hunter both needed a melee weapon and a ranged weapon. Alright, mister, enjoy your evening. But yeah, they gradually moved away from that. It was really awkward. There's also the part that even though you're out, like your swing timer on your ranged weapon could tick while you were moving, you couldn't shoot if you were moving. So you had to stop and like had like an invisible cast time on your auto shot. It was really awkward. Alright, check that. Enjoy your evening. Yeah, it was... There could be a lot of ways to make the game complicated in different ways. I'm glad in a way, I'm glad that they've moved a little bit away from positionals. On the other hand, I feel like that's another thing that they're quite, like, sort of moving a little bit away from. But I do think that they've found, like, a middle ground on the positionals. It seems like they've decided that positionals are mainly for combo finishers. I think that works. I think that works. Because it means you have plenty of time to move into position for the positional. And it also means that it kind of gives you like an extra way to keep track of your rotation. Because like you move to the positional for the next finisher. Hey Emia, hope you've had a good evening. Hope you're doing well. Got anything left? We just finished Alliance raids. Well, we did. Group 2. I don't know. I guess you got back? Well, you're coming out now. We didn't wipe once in the Flying Graveyard. Also known as Don't Skate. And with almost no deaths, we mean our alliance wiped. Oh. But yeah, I do think that having positionals is a good thing. But too many can be a little overwhelming. Anyone who in the chat who started Final Fantasy XIV in Endwalker? Ilana, that is the twins' mom. Right. So that was actually exactly what I was going for, Malzagar. Before Endwalker, Bootshine was a rear positional. If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure Twin Snakes was also a rear positional. Let me actually check. That's the only one I'm uncertain of. No, Twin Snakes was a flank positional. Which means that if I do this change, the top row here was the flank positionals and the bottom was the rear positionals. And that meant, and you might sometimes see monks that still do this, it means that, you know, it went a little something like this. So if you see a monk who's extra speedy on their rear positioning, it's usually because they haven't grown out of pre-Endwalker, which, understandable. Understandable, because it's quite hard. You can also see it in my Shadowbringers monk starter guide. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, Cyanide. And that's also true, Malzagar. When you use perfect balance, and you then, you know, dragon kick Bootshine, dragon kick Bootshine, dragon kick Bootshine, dragon kick Bootshine, like, it might just be better to use True North for that. For a second, I thought I actually didn't have True North on my bars. It isn't where it normally is, which is there. Samuel says, would you say that positionals are Square Enix's way of bringing melee DPS more in line with things like physical range to have less damage, but don't need to worry about where they are as much? Maybe? Maybe. I'm not sure. The thing is, as far as I've seen, and I'm going to keep it vague because I don't want to spoil for anyone, but from what I've seen, a problem in Endwalker is that bosses have giga targets, like target hitboxes. Like you can stand over in Narnia and somehow you punch the air in front of you and the boss like 20 meters down the street is like, ugh! And it makes no sense. They're cutting back on that. Which is to say, those hitboxes are becoming small, like much smaller. And the way that melee DPS... Alright, Emir, enjoy your evening with, I'm guessing Destiny 2? By reeling in and making the targeting, like the hitbox smaller, melee DPS are kept in line by making it so that they can't really be on the field, like they can't be all over the place, because to actually maintain their damage, they need to be close to the boss, and the boss is not very big. So they can't be anywhere. I guess positionals add to this? Like, I feel like positionals is a type of difficulty addition to the game that is like, if it was never there, no one would have missed it. Like, people wouldn't have been like, it's kind of weird that there's no positionals, isn't it? Yeah, exactly, Malzakar. You just swing the air in front of you, and the boss is like, ow! Oof! Ear! My bones! Alright, Debbie, enjoy your evening. I think we're done. We're just winding down and talking. But that's actually a common problem with bosses with too big hitboxes, is that you exactly have this weird thing where, well, I mean, it's not exactly unique to Final Fantasy XIV. I feel like a lot of Final Fantasy games has this problem, where like the final boss is like a big space demon where the background is actually space, where your characters are standing on a platform, and then you tell your warrior guy to attack, and he does this. And then damage numbers appear. And he just jumps forward 5 feet and swing the air in front of him. And somehow that hurt the big space demon. Like, I don't know if it's just intimidation damage or something. It makes no sense. Can you only get the diable version of the level 80 Red Mage gear from Extreme Trials? Yes, that is correct. It comes from Memoria Misera. It is a duty that you unlock through Bosha, I believe. But yeah, I'm just saying that the reason why I think a lot of Final Fantasy players are like completely indifferent to the whole you attack the air in front of you and it somehow works, I think is partly because like they can suspend their disbelief and, you know, they can imagine how it's supposed to be. But also possibly because, I mean, in Final Fantasy that's kind of normal. It's less normal in the newer games, but like older ones it's perfectly normal. Does anyone know what's going to be the acronym for the Arcadian? That's a good question. Round? R. You know, that could actually work, because the second letter is R, so maybe they'll do that. Call it R, 1 to 12. But I don't know. I would just say R, like for round. No A, just R. It makes sense in the way that... exactly, Melody. It's kind of like a tournament or something. From what we've seen. Don't know. Sometimes the acronyms make no sense. And sometimes, like, well, sometimes they are weird. Like, check this. We call the current rate tier P for Pandemonium, but, you know. Says A here. This one is called T for turn. Not the, turn. It's not the, it's for turn. So turn 1. And this is turn 13. Not turn 4, part 3. It's turn 13. There's A, O. Look, this is O for Omega. This is O, right? No Omega in these titles. And these are E for Eden. So maybe we'll find a name that makes sense. And then that'll stick. Like sometimes, I believe some of the ultimates got weird names or funny names that don't make perfect sense because it's funnier that way. What's it? Ultimate Weapon Ultimate? Yeah, it's this one is Uvu, right? Ultimate Weapon Ultimate, because it's funnier than if it had been Ru, right? If it had been WRU, that could have worked, but it isn't what we went with. But this could have been Ru. In a different timeline, this could have been Ru. Then again, we don't call this Ultima's Bane, we call this Ultimate Weapon Extreme, right? This is Ultimate Weapon Extreme. I don't know what you're looking at. This also isn't Howling Eye Extreme, this is just Garuda Extreme, right? This is Titan. It doesn't say naval. It says Titan. It says Titan. Okay. It says Titan. See, T-I-N. Wait. T-I-T-A-N. And 3 exclamation marks. I don't know what you're saying. T-I-T-A-N, 3 exclamation marks. Extreme. There's a lot more exclamation marks in this one. It says Ifrit. Extreme. Exactly, Kirin gets it. Mazaka says we became lazy in Endwalker and just called it. I think actually we didn't actually get lazy. We became very spoiler aware. And actually it says bow down over Dweller Extreme. Yeah, exactly. We call the Endwalker ones just EX1, 2, 3, 4, and so on because spoilers. I think the first 3 we called EX1, 2, 3 for spoiler reasons. Or at least the first 2, and then it kind of just stuck. So, you know what? I will say, Mazaka, we got lazy after that. And I actually find it a little difficult, because when you get to like EX number 7, I'm like, that's Zeromus, right? I'm pretty sure that's the episode Fracture guy, right? I think so. Because there aren't 8. I'm pretty sure there's not 8. It's the same that sometimes happens with the raid shorthands. It's like, what fight is A4 is manipulator? What's A8? Yeah, the Hilde. Actually, I feel like we've been robbed. Actually, it's brute justice. We've been robbed. None of the Hilde trials are extremes. Why not? Why not? Mazaka says A8S sucks on Blue Mage. Well, Zaf would know. I believe they procced on that for months. Was it months, Zaf? And Anna says, I never remember which is which for Alexander. See, the thing is, I know A4 is Manipulator, A8 is Brute Justice, and A12 is Alexander. The rest of them is like, I'll go into the duty, and then we'll see what it is. I've gotten pretty good at recognizing the way the duty looks when you're going up to Pepsi Man. Hildebrand, why not Godbird Ultimate? Just fight Godbird? Pepsi Man! Pep, pep. Yeah, that, I feel like we've been robbed by not getting extremes out of the Hildy stuff. On the other hand, could you imagine? Well, actually, you could imagine. I remember how, like, there were a lot of people that were really mad when they discovered they had to complete the Hildebrand story for Endwalker relic weapons. You mean a minstrel would tell a more exaggerated version of the Hildebrand story? You have a point. You have a point, Cat. Yeah, you have a good point there. How would he come up with something more crazy? And see, the thing is, with making the Hildy story mandatory due to the Endwalker relics, the sad part is, what happens is the people that liked Hildebrand did it and enjoyed it. a percentage of players might not have realized that Hildebrand was an option, and then when they got forced to do it, they were like, oh, this is awesome. Some percentage of players just rushed through it because a quest is a quest and didn't care. Some percentage tried it and was like, this kind of sucks, I don't like this, and just didn't finish it. And a percentage of players learned of the concept of Hildebrand and was like, ha, no, and never tried and never planned to. By making it mandatory, the players that were already doing it just gets it for free, right? They're going to do it anyway, so they just get free relic weapons. Well, they don't get free relic weapons, but they get free progress toward relic weapons. The players that didn't know that it existed and then were made aware of it and loved it, they are pretty much the only ones that benefited from this. The ones that did it because the quest is a quest are in the same boat as the ones that did it because they loved it, because they already finished it, and they would have done the quest anyway, because a quest is a quest. And the players that didn't like it won't like it more by being forced to do it. And yeah, also that, Mazakal, there's actually also players caught in between that would love the story, but they feel incentivized to rush it because they need to finish this quest, like, to yesterday, because they need those relic weapons. Which means players that might have liked it will not experience it fully. So, in some capacity, it ruins it for everyone. That's also the reason why sometimes people are like, oh yeah, I think all of these optional stories should be mandatory so more people could enjoy those stories. They wouldn't enjoy them. They would not enjoy them. So you don't, you think you want that, but you don't. Because the people that are getting, if a player decided they didn't want to do a story, there's probably a reason. And yes, there will be players that are like, oh, do I have to do this? Oh, okay. And then they figure out, oh, this quest is awesome. But I'm pretty sure that's a really small percentage. So I just don't see it. I just don't see it as a good idea. So like, for me, I think it was not the best idea to make the Hildebrand story mandatory. And I say that as someone who loves the Hildebrand story and think it's hilarious. I know it gets a little rough sometimes, but I love that story. And I still say that was not a good idea. Like, that was not a good idea. Samuel says, you know what? Give me more trials like Battle on the Big Bridge where you might have a gigapull between two separate phases. Oh yeah, that could be fun. Oh, maybe I should mention this before I forget. We started with this, so I'll just finish with this as well. If you haven't picked it up yet, if you plan to play Dawn Trail Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday on release, like in the early access period, do not hand in your Wondrous Tales yet. Save it for Friday next week, where you can hand it in and gain half a level on whichever job you want. You will also be able to spend your poetics on something useful and then get more poetics if you're lucky. Yeah, fill it out, but don't hand it in yet. And the reason for that is that this Wondrous Tales will last until the 2nd next month. Only if you picked it up today. So if you have a Wondrous Tales from last week, do whatever you want with that. Make sure you pick one up in this week and don't hand that one in. Free half level XP. And also, if you want to get extra optimal, try to make sure you finish with 9 second chances, so that you can quickly speed through those on the Friday. Since we will not be max level anymore, will the third line of rewards disappear? I'm pretty sure that this Wondrous Tales is as is. And on Tuesday, if you pick up the Wondrous Tales on Tuesday, well, you won't. Yeah, you won't. You shouldn't. If you pick it, like the Wondrous Tales you'll pick up on Dawn Trail release day will probably be missing this column. But this one is as is here. It will not change. So you can still pick these on that Friday. The reason is that the rewards and the tasks are actually both adjusted to what level you are. If you're below max level, they will only give you level 1 to 60 stuff in your Wondrous Tales, but only 2 columns. If you're max level on a single job, then anything goes. Yeah. I don't know, like, I know there was some ups and downs in the Hildebrand story, and there's also parts that I'm like, but that's the case with the entire MSQ as well. There are points that are like a little, but usually most of us like it despite that. But humor, comedy is a lot harder and a lot more like a lot more specific to the individual. So it does not surprise me that a lot of people don't like the humor in the Hildebrand story. I think it's hilarious. Sometimes. And I think it's a crying shame that a lot of people were forced to consume it. Because that probably didn't make them like it anymore. And it also doesn't help that a lot of the comedy is missing because it's all conveyed in text. Like, if they had voiceover for the Hildebrand story, they had voiceover for it, that would make it better. Like, I think that would help a lot. Tells us you could make a YouTube series out of what? Like, out of Hildebrand? Oh yeah, that's true. I have, actually, every part of Hildebrand's story. I'm pretty sure most of them in Endwalker, I've streamed me doing them. And I absolutely voice all of them, by the way. I voice all of the characters when I'm doing streams. Like, unless they're voiced naturally. And Hildebrand, particularly something else. Because there's no one speaking for me, so there's no breaks. Yeah, there's a lot of parts where you can see that there's like a comedic timing to the text, like with the thing happening in the cutscene, but it's just not there because there's no voiceover. But yeah, if you want to experience Playframe has a Hildebrand series. Oh, I see. If you want to experience some parts of the Hildebrand story with someone voicing the characters, I've done it for most of the Endwalker parts of the story. On live stream, so there's of course all sorts of other stuff. But if you don't like the humor in it, then it being voiced will probably not change that. Anyway, with that said, if you enjoyed the company of the wonderful people in this chat, or me, remember that there's a Discord community server that you can join, where you will find me and I think most of the people in the chat. A lot of the people in the chat this time around, at least. You'll also find a weekly schedule where you can see what else is coming up on the channel in the coming days. You'll also find the announcement room where you see links to videos and streams when they come out. And if you go to the role assignments room, you can grab the reminder role and then you get a notification whenever I do post a video or a stream. It also comes with an extra notification around 15 minutes before stream starts, so you don't miss a second. And if you enjoyed this particular stream, it helps me a lot if you leave a like on it in the YouTube system. That tells YouTube that this was a very enjoyable stream and you would like other people to enjoy it as well. And that of course helps me directly. And speaking of directly, if you want to support me even more directly than that, you can become a member of the channel, you can gift memberships, you can use the super chat system, or if you don't like the YouTube stuff, there's also a Ko-Fi link in the description. And it all helps me directly by, you know, monetarily supporting me, but it's all optional. There isn't like videos hidden behind any of these memberships rewards and all that. It's that's for everyone. Rap God. I've said this many times, as you can hear. I think that's everything. We managed to do all the roulettes. We managed to have a talk about a bunch of things. We managed to do the roulettes. Yeah. On Thursday, we have a walk and talk stream, which ironically will be very similar to this one, just with less roulettes and a little bit more clip review. It will be the last walk and talk before Dawn Trail, and it might be a while before we have another one after that. But I think that's everything I have. So, with that said, good night, good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world. Walk and talk? Yeah, let me just explain that before I take off. We walk somewhere on Ravana Materia and OCE, which means everyone can participate in the walk. And we talk about stuff while we do that. When we reach the destination, we start looking at clips that people posted on the Discord server. Specifically for this. This includes giving advice on like runs people did. It also includes seeing wacky stuff that happens in duties and all that stuff. But yeah, that's walk and talk. It's just a hangout stream, a little bit like this one, just with less roulettes. Now, is backpack accessory required? No, it's not required, but I will wear it. Materia is OCE. We hop on over to the Oceanic Data Center so you can join us. Now, good night, good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world, and I hope to see you all very soon. Bye-bye. You can hear more about it on the Discord server if you like Massacre.